Hey guys, Horace here, and today I am back with another video. I'm going to be teaching you guys a few tricks on how I personally build. So I'm going to kind of take you through the process of building a simple plot. Now I'm going to be using the house that I taught you just a little while ago. I the only thing that I changed was having a few um, stairs in the middle to give it a little bit more texture. But other than that, this is the exact same house that you can get from this tutorial. And then you can make a little bit of terrain. And I'm just using some borderline stuff so that I can paint it nice and easily. Anyway, guys, so I'm going to just start off with the first tip, and that is terrain. Obviously, I have my terrain. Terrain makes the build because when you just have a flat house on a flat world, it's boring. Either go into your Minecraft, Minecraft survival world and build into the terrain, or you make your own terrain, especially when you're on a flat world. You got to build your own terrain, especially builders. But terrain is super, super crucial anytime you build. Now, obviously, I have the shape now. Now I need to paint it. But first, I'm going to add a few things to help this along. Now, I have a brush blob that's going to allow me to put a few large rocks where I want them. Actually, I'm going to have two large rocks right there and there. And then I'm going to do slash vr blob, and then I'm going to 251 9, and then I'm going to do down to a 3, and I think that'll give me a little bit more control on the size of the ball. Then I'm going to make sure that I don't overdo it just a little much, so I'm going to redo those. The other thing is, if you don't like something, remove it. Just remove it. It is so much more worth it when you keep working to make something that you like than finishing it and then you not liking it at the end product. So keep messing with it, keep working with your build until you like it. And that is probably one of the most crucial things. People feel like, oh, you have to have a build in a certain way and it has to look perfect. So put that time in, because if you put half the time that would want to, but you're like, hey, I'm just gonna end it here because it's everybody else tells me it's finished. But if you're not happy with it, don't continue to do that. Now, I'm going to select the entire, all of these rocks, and I'm going to do a simplex command. Oops, let me make sure I do this command correctly. Slash replace, and then I'm going to replace the block and then use a simplex. I'm going to use a 15, and then I'm going to be using a 2, 5, and then 7, and then 1, 5, 9, along with a 2, 5, 2, 7. It's going to give me these dark gray blocks that I really like the look of, and I know a lot of people use in the past. Now, these things like where they're matching, I'm just going to get rid of these real quick so that it doesn't look so flush with the ground and it looks like it's actually coming out of the ground, so that I can do a little bit more with it. Now, what I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to be taking my surface brush, which you make like this, surface, and then 251 6, and then I'm going to do a 2. Now, I'm going to be making the paths, but I have to make sure I mask the correct blocks so that I only edit the orange blocks. And there's a nice contour where I could put 2 paths right here, so that and that's what I'm going to do right now. So it's just going to go all the way down, and boom. And then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to go all the way down to the edge of the border. Now, what I can do fairly easily is I'm going to select the rest of the build, and then I'm going to go back to that other simplex command because I can use that again. I'm going to change that to a 6 since it's pink, and then I am going to be using a bit of a different block gradient, which is 3, 1, and then 5, 1. And then I'm going to put a parenthesis, and now I get a little bit of a gradient. Now I'm going to change this in in a while, but for now, it's what I want it to be. Now, I'm going to take the surface brush and I'm going to go along the sides of my paths, and I'm just going to do a simple edit so that I can keep making a gradient to my terrain. Now, obviously, a lot of people will select the entire thing and then do slash replace, and then they'll change it to, you know, a bunch of different blocks that they think will look good. But really, you want to use slow gradients so that it doesn't affect so much. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 3-1, and then I'm going to do a 1-2. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I need to make sure that I actually edit the only block that I want to edit, so that there. Now it gives a little bit more of a border, and it allows for it to be a little bit more of a gradient. Then I'm going to go along the paths again and do pretty much the same thing, but just a little bit differently. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build into the terrain so that I can get a little bit of a gradient. So I'm going to have a 1, 2, but right now I'm going to go back to a simplex command so that I can do this a little bit more easily. I'm going to do a 1, 2, and then I'm going to 1, 1, and then finish that off so that it gives me that. Then I'm going to go back again. Boop, 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 boop. You don't want to cut too much into it because we want some ground so that we can have some grass, because grass is always super pretty. It's just something that you should pretty much always have in your build, so I need to make sure I have the right gradient. So I'm going to have 1, 1, and then I'm going to have 5, 3. And there we go. Now I get that type of a little bit of gradient. Now I'm going to come back, and then I'm going to basically just take all of the orange that I want to turn over. Fairly simple. And then I'm going to take, and I would normally just do a slash replace command, but you'll see why I don't do that in a little bit. So as you know, this is a surface command, so it only does one block out of the surface. And then I can use a 2, and then a 2, 5, 2, and then a 13. And what that will do is it'll give me even a bigger gradient. So now I have that. Now, what you see is some pretty kind of ugly things that I don't particularly like, but what I'm going to do with these is I am going to make a nice little wall. Now, what should I make with this little wall? I'm probably just going to do some type of leaf block right in the middle to give it a little bit of a separation between the two gradients, between the path and the grass. Oops. Obviously, I'm using an auto-clicker, so this would go a lot slower for you. But make sure that when you do this, you want to have them look fairly natural in how you do it. Oh, I didn't select this entire area, so I gotta make sure I do this entire selection. Go back, make sure I get all of the grass. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. And then make sure to come back and edit so they look all nice and pretty. Get some height variation and things like that. Now I have a little bit of a separation between the paths and the terrain, and I also have lots of green grass, which looks fantastic. So now my next step is going to be using some trees. Now, there are many ways to do this, but how I like to do it is I like to have my thing and then copy. But before I should do that, I need to go get a tool. I'm going to do a /br copy, then I copy. And what this allows me to do is with a brush, I can just paste it in wherever I want, which has always been a super big help for me. So then I'm going to rotate it to make sure that it looks a little bit different than the other one. And then I'm going to make sure that it goes all the way down in the ground, because it looks a little weird when you just have a floating tree. You can even just do that to make it look a little bit different. Now I'm going to take these trees I'm going to actually take this one right here first. And then I'm going to copy this and do the exact same thing with this one. What this is going to do is it's going to add a lot of beautifulness to my thing. So because I'm doing right next to a build, if I paste that in, it's going to paste into the house. So I don't want that. So I'm going to do a //gmask0, meaning it's only going to replace air blocks. So it'll just keep the whatever house that I already have and not mess with anything else. Now I can place one there, see if that looks good. That does not look good. So I think I'm just going to have 2 of them on either side of the house, like so. Again, I'm going to go and make sure that it looks all the way into the ground on both of them, so they look a little bit better. Then I'm going to, with that done, I'm going to go and get some flowers, because flowers are always super pretty, especially in the new texture pack. I am in 1.12, but I use the 1.14 texture pack because I just adore it. It's plain and simple. But yeah, you know, you can spam a few things here and there. That's too many large ferns, but I'm gonna put some roses right here, and then maybe some blue flowers here, but I gotta get some grass to actually plant those, and then in between those blue flowers, I'm going to use some ferns to make it look nice and pretty. Grass is always super helpful when you're trying to get things. That's why when you use those / replace clans with lots of different blocks and it just looks all like a jumbled mess, you can't have much grass, and so it often makes it look a little bit lacking. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of dirt. So I'm just going to go around. I'm going to just break a few blocks in this little area so that I can place some grass in it, just randomly. Don't have to be anywhere specific. But this gives it a little bit more of a worn feeling, like there's little patches of grass. This looks a little bit too, I guess, not random. I don't know. But obviously, I'm just going to go and do this. And then I'm going to also be doing something else that helps a lot with the randomness, and that's grass. Oops, not that. Grass places. I'm going to put a few right here. So a few grass spots that are just growing up because they haven't been trampled enough. And there we go. So we got a few, things just coming up because, you don't always walk on all of the grass, and, weeds pop up every once in a while. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take another block of my choosing, which I don't know what it is. Actually, I'll just use a dark oak, and then I'm going to make a path up to my house. Fairly simple, fairly straightforward. And then I'm going to use some more leaves. I'm going to use oak leaves this time. And I'm just going to make a little bit of a path down. Now, as you can see, these are not very able to be jumped up. So I'm going to get some slabs and I'm going to put them there. And the other thing is I'm going to go get some slabs here. And because we put some spruce in our thing, we can put lots of stairs so that it goes up just by a little bit every time. Boom, boom, boom. That way you get a little bit of a smoother track while going up the hill. Then, so yeah, there we go. I mean, it looks very nice. I mean, already it looks so much better than the, or orange terrain that I had. Another thing that you can do is you can utilize a trick that I've always loved doing. So maybe, like, say right here, we have it cut into the terrain just a little bit. Make sure that the house goes all the way down, because the foundations generally do that. Maybe a little bit of editing here, but other than that, we can just use... Actually, you know what we could do? We could just get rid of lots of this, and we could just have ourselves a little storage area, like so. Make sure the house goes all the way down into the terrain. Make sure that that looks good. Then what I can do is I can take some blocks that I haven't used, so I don't really want to use that. So I got some acacia, got some dark oak, and some birch. And what I can do with this is I can make little piles of planks and things like that to give a little bit more texture. Obviously, I'm in 1.12, so I can't, unfortunately, put their trapdoors to their respected things, but you can do this sometimes just across the paths, and it looks really nice. They're simple things, but they look like crates. Unfortunately, we don't have barrels, which is what I would normally put right there if I was in 1.13 plus. But yes, this looks so much nicer than just the orange terrain that I had. I'm not going to do the interiors because that would take far too long. But other than that, I think that this hopefully will give you a better understanding of how we put our builds together with terrain and painting and things like that. Anyway, guys, hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you later. Bye.